Hello everyone, as always, I'm Vlad Sparastoria. Today we're doing a slightly different video because the focus of this video isn't the weapon you see here in front of me, this Ruger 5.56, a beautiful AR-15, but rather this Optic in particular. I want to talk to you about this Optic not only because the company that makes it sent it to me to try out, but also because I actually have a relatively long history with this optic, with this brand of optics. Let me explain. I want to start this video by making a very important disclaimer. Some of my acquaintances and friends have pointed out to me that despite having a relatively high number of subscribers for an Italian language firearms channel, I hardly have any collaborations with brands. There are shooters with channels much smaller than mine who are regularly sponsored by companies that produce firearms and firearm accessories. My problem is that a lot of companies actually contact me to do reviews, but I want to provide honest reviews. So when I say that, I will speak honestly about the product and my experience, and that I can say whatever I want, the companies mysteriously disappear. I wonder why. The second very important part of the disclaimer is that if you buy this optic using the code in the description, I will receive 5%. I want this to be absolutely clear to everyone. I don't do many, let's say, sponsored reviews, and I care about intellectual honesty between me and you, because I often realize that the things I say have a big impact due to the visibility I have in the shooting world. So I want this to be absolutely clear and not questioned in any way. However, the reason that led me to actually want to collaborate with this company in reviewing the optic and not with many others is that 4 years ago, for an R15 that we had at the shooting range in Poland, an R15 that was used very intensively, I bought this optic, this exact model of optic. They offered me several to review, but when I saw this one they were offering me, I said yes, I want it, because first of all, I know it. And I know it without bias. Because I repeat, I bought it, I chose it, I tested it thoroughly, and I saw what it can and cannot do. First of all, what is this optic? This optic is a so-called LPVO, which is an English acronym that stands for Low Power Variable Scope. Variable scope tells us that the optic has variable zoom. Low power actually indicates that the lowest setting, so the one with the least magnification, is actually 1 power, meaning no magnification. This type of optic has become very popular in the last 8 to 10 years, we could say, in the shooting world, because it combines the advantages of a short-range optical sighting system, like, for example, a red dot, with the possibility to quickly zoom in to shoot at more distant targets. So, an LPVO combines the capability of a regular optic for shooting at long range while removing the disadvantages, because obviously when shooting at close range, maybe during dynamic shooting, the optic's zoom could get in the way. Using this lever, we can adjust it very quickly. Now we can see it a bit better. When we take a closer look at this optic, we can quickly change the magnification. Magnification that goes from 1, so no magnification, up to 1 to 6. The company, as I mentioned, is a Chinese company that opened its doors in 2007. The founder of the company previously worked in Sweden, also in the production of optics. And even back then, many of these components were already being made, especially in China. Because, let's be honest, when they tell you it's a product made in the USA or made in Italy, very often, the components are made somewhere else and then assembled in the country that brands the product. Even though many components were produced in China, and China was the only place with factories capable of making these things, there were no brands marketing themselves as being from there. And VectorOptics started its operations by presenting itself as a brand of its own. They are, let's say, adaptations or copies of the Vortex ones, other very popular LPVO optics, but in recent years they have developed quite a character of their own. They also have brands, sub-brands, still owned and produced by them, like VectorOptics. Or for example, this brand of mounts, because they also produce mounts as well. It's essential to have this. If you don't have it, it's not enough to just buy the optic. You also need the mount. There are different types, but also other accessories for shooting. So, how is it made? Because like every optic, besides looking inside it, we'll also see how it's made inside, it has a series of controls. First of all, we have 2 turrets that are used to set and zero the optic. On the left side, we actually have the illumination control. In fact, underneath here, there's a battery that lights up the reticle for us. By the way, the reticle works perfectly well even without the illumination. It's not necessary to have the illumination for the reticle to work, but it definitely helps. It also makes it much more easier on the eyes and quicker on target. Now we'll try zeroing the weapon's optic. Unfortunately, due to logistical problems, namely trees that have fallen on the longer shooting range, we're at a relatively short distance, about 30 meters. But anyway, let's check if it's shooting straight. Also, because the nice thing about this kind of optic is that by setting it to 1x, you can really shoot at very short distances. Let's lock the magazine in place. Let's go check a few shots. In fact, it's off. Shoot at the paper to see a bit better where it goes. Okay, low bottom left. Let's loosen it and give it a few clicks up. And then a little to the right. That is in this direction. Let's try 2 more shots. After a quick change of glasses. Because otherwise I can't see anything at all. Okay. Funny enough, I can't see the target well with these glasses since it's in the shade. Okay, more, definitely more. Now, these clicks are 1/5 of a mil. There's a scientific way to do this a bit more accurately, especially if we're at a known distance. But right now, we're at such a short distance that without a good calculator, I'm not even going to do the math since I can't even measure exactly how far off the point of impact I am. We're going to do it in a way that's a bit more, let's call it experimental. We're almost there. Good. A couple of clicks. Okay. Honestly, we could even tighten it here. Good. And a little higher. And we're there, I'd say. A couple more shots to see if we're there. Okay. We're close enough. I'd say we're close enough. And so that's a great thing. As you can see, the actual work of using a laser to zero the optic is pretty simple. You just need to be able to hit the center of the target. It often happens to me, just working at the shooting range, that people come to me and ask me to adjust or help them adjust their sights. Their sights, especially on pistols, where the biggest problem isn't the technical side of adjusting them or how to do it. But the problem is that they're not able to hit the target. So exactly, what are you aligning the sights for if you pull the trigger so hard that the shots end up in the sand below the target? It's a bit of a problem. Here's the setup for one. Now don't judge me if it's not aimed very well, but between the sun and trying to line it up with the camera, it's not that simple. But we can, as you can see, zoom in. Look at that beautiful image. Now don't mind this because this is a camera alignment issue. But, as you can see, this is the 1x, which is perfectly life-size, as you can also see from the table, which looks perfectly natural. And you zoom in. Beautiful. I like it. The most important thing, as I already told you about LPVO optics, is the 1x, because a good 1x allows you to keep both eyes open when you shoot without blocking your view. The other thing is the field of view, because you look through the optic and still have a good field of view, while your other eye keeps looking outside. And if that 1x deviates too much from what your eye naturally sees, you see 2 images, one that's slightly zoomed in and the other that's not. And this confuses you. But with the 1x setting, for example, engaging targets at this distance is very simple. If I need to take a more precise shot, for example, towards the white target, the one down there, I can easily zoom in, find it, and engage it. And I can, for example, even if I'm doing a sporting competition or an intermediate stage where I don't want to change the setting, I can set it to 3x. The 3x lets me see both the large targets and the smaller target up close perfectly. In short, the great thing about an optic like this is that it can really do everything. Now, I'm not going to tell you that, for example, for short distances, it's better than a holographic sight. You know, you're aware of my great love for holographic sights, which, especially at short and medium distances, are unbeatable in some ways. But for the price it has, and for its ability to change the zoom, you have a sight that can do everything from short to long distance. I would say it's a good compromise, definitely better than having iron sights or a simple red dot. If, for example, in a recent event, the guy with an R5 hadn't had a red dot, but an LPVO and could use the magnification to his advantage, probably the orange guy would be dead. No. One thing I really like about this optic is the so-called eye relief or eye to optic distance. Now, if you've never held a scope on a weapon, you don't know what I'm talking about, but think about binoculars. There is a certain distance between the eye and the optic where the image is seen correctly. So some people prefer it closer, some prefer it farther away. I dislike optics that require putting my eye so close because having it right in my face makes me uncomfortable. The nice thing about this optic is that this is the distance where I see the image correctly. Even if it's zoomed in, I can still see the target clearly. Of course, if I go to 1 power like I am now, the whole image is very clear to my eye. Well, maybe the eye relief, but in general with all optics, that's the disadvantage of optics, meaning that with red dots and holographic sights, you usually don't have this problem. But you can still adjust this depending on where the optic is positioned on the mount and the mount itself on the rail to adapt the optic to your shooting position. As you can see, I keep my eye pretty far back and I like that. I really like it also because it lets me see around the optic with my left eye open, especially when I set it to 1 power. There are some things I can't show you today, because there are qualities of optics that can only be appreciated in other contexts. For example, today, unfortunately, also because of the shooting range, we can't test it at a longer distance. But there are other things, for example, like how well it holds zero, how solid the optic is, and things like that. That's probably the most important part of this product, because when you buy this product, which doesn't cost much at all, many people don't have high expectations. I repeat, I bought it for a shooting range gun in Poland. Guns that, I remind you, were rented for recreational use. That optic was mistreated. It was banged around because people banged it. The instructors carrying 20 guns at a time banged it. It was mistreated. It was used badly for a long time. Once I zeroed it, I never had to zero it again. So the mounts are solid and it holds zero. And despite the rough treatment, even the gun it was mounted on, which was a Smith & Wesson MP15, was fired so much that the barrel was completely worn out. It couldn't stabilize the shots anymore. So it was heavily used, just to let you know. And the optic held up. And if you go today to that shooting range in Poland where I used to work, there's still an R15 with that optic on it. This proves that it's a product which, even though it's inexpensive, is considered by me and actually by many other shooters and experts as one of the best, if not the best, budget optics. Because, let's say, it doesn't cost much. Can you get better optics if you spend more? Absolutely, yes. I'm not claiming that this is the best optic in the world. There are many little things that can be improved and that are done better. Because when you buy an optic for 1,000 or 2,000 euros, you're putting your money into something. I mean, let's not kid ourselves, right? It does have something extra. But in the price range of this optic, it's hard to find anything better. And I'm telling you this honestly from the heart because I'm looking at a product I've known for many years. But not only that, it's not like I just made this video and then I'll disappear, or this product will disappear. No, in fact, I intend to set up a gun that I want to use for competitions, Lynx Brutality if I can, next year. And in the setup I'm creating, I actually intend to use this optic. So I plan to train with this optic and show you more and more videos where I use it. Also because I want it to be proof of what I said. If I ever have any problems with this optic in general, you'll be the first to know. Also, just to be clear again, I need to be able to speak honestly about these products. It's time for thank yous. So first of all, I want to thank the company that made this optic, this mount, VectorOptics, for sending it to me and for choosing me for this collaboration. It's definitely an interesting addition to my arsenal of weapon accessories, and I'll gladly keep using it. I repeat, if you're interested in buying it, you'll find a link in the description that gives you a small discount and also gives me a small commission. So you're also supporting the channel if you'd like to. If you don't want to or can't, consider this. At the very least, leave a like and a comment, because these videos are also heavily censored by YouTube, which really doesn't help at all. You see, this terrible device can take out so many innocent people from a very long distance with terrible military weapons. Let's leave certain politics aside. As always, we'll see each other next time.